Welcome to the Cannabis Analysis, the podcast that covers all things cannabis. We're going to talk, debate, examine, and get great. We are now live on YouTube, Rumble, and Kick. Don't forget to join our locals community. The link tree will be in the description box. My fellow Cannabisians, welcome to the Cannabis Analysis. We were going to talk about today the Hippie Trail / Silk Road. Basically, this term was coined in the 80s, I believe, but these are trade routes from China that were established hundreds of years ago in Dynasty China. And in the 1960s and 1970s, it was used as basically counterculture, a way for hippies, as it deems to be, to basically escape, get away, travel, see the world. The main method was hitchhiking, taking buses. Sorry, trying to get the chat and everything. Taking buses, hitchhiking, walking. Primarily traveling through the Middle East. Turkey, Iran, Nepal, going through the Kush Mountains. And a lot of them brought back seeds, and this was Americans, Northern Americans, United States citizens, United States of America citizens. First exposure to indica genetics. Something that had a short flowering time, very THC heavy to the point that it was lethargic, very different from the basically Northern American, Central American, and South American cannabis that the people were used to normally up until that point. I got a few articles to basically explain a little bit about it. I also have a YouTube video. Always love to get stuff from YouTube, so that way you too can check up on it and go down a rabbit hole yourself. But first I'm going to show you a map of basically the route. And once I look, this is kind of a bad map actually. But we do get to see pretty much the routes that they traveled. This is called the Hippie Trail because usually Europeans and a bunch of Americans would basically trek from, well, we'll see. We'll get to see for ourselves. Let's go right into it. We got here, this is going primarily from London all the way to Bangkok, Mannar, China, India, Nepal, Iraq, Pakistan, Iran. And these were actually ancient trade routes. Along the routes, different cities and trade ports popped up. And by the time the hippies came, they were actually, I guess, villages, towns that you could spend the night at, different hostels, get something to eat, clean yourself up, and then keep traveling on. Trade, or whatever you needed to do to get you to your next stop. But along the way, a lot of people brought seeds from the different cannabis plants that they saw through their travels. They brought them back home with them. And that was the, I guess, first main explosion of breeding. Primarily before that, it was shorter flowering sativas being bred with longer flowering sativas, 16 weekers being bred with 10 weekers, primarily Colombians mixed with Mexicans. But then when these 8-9 week flowering plants coming from Asia entered into America. That is where America and Europe, I should say, but that's where Northern Lights comes from, a mixture of the sativa and indica genetics. That starts to pop up. I believe Skunk One, which is a mixture of Colombian, Mexican, and Afghani. And just a whole new world, hashish, different effects, more body high versus heady high. And it really popped up and boomed, is what I'm really trying to say, around the 1960s and 1970s. Now, this goes into a little detail because I always wondered myself why you couldn't go on the hippie trail at any point anymore and kind of do your own, basically hunting for different varieties and bringing them back and working with them yourself. This goes into a little detail. We're just going to get right to the good part. The Hippie Trail was an overland route popularized in the 1960s and 1970s by young Western travelers, particularly countercultural hippies, looking for alternative experiences, spiritual exploration, and adventure. This trail typically ran from Western Europe to South Asia, with travelers journeying through the Middle East into India, Nepal, and beyond. And I must say, this must have had to have been a real experience, still to be able to live off the land, travel the land, see the sights unrestricted. No cell phones, no cameras. This is really you versus the world. So this has to be a very, very spiritual, liberating experience. So this goes into some key features of the Hippie Trail. A rebellion against materialism and consumer counterculture. A rebellion against materialism and consumer culture. A search for spiritual enlightenment and exotic experiences. A cultural exchange between Western travelers and South Asian communities. And that seems about right, actually. That I think is something we're all kind of looking for. A break from this rat race that we're in. Some sort of spiritual enlightenment and an exotic experience. I can imagine sitting at a table and eating with people that don't speak the same language as you, and it's all love. Has to be a growing experience. Something that's unforgettable, once in a lifetime. So I see, hearing such rave things would make people want to go travel or, repeat and go back to see if they can recreate that. Didn't mean to do that. Sorry about that. Text messages messed me up. Right in the middle of trying to record. Sorry, I had to get my sip of coffee. And the means of travel, typically budget-friendly public buses, hitchhiking, vans, or trains. Overland routes with minimal flights to keep costs low. Hostels, cheap hotels, and informal guest houses, often known as a hippie hotel, provided shelter. There was also pitching tents. Along the way, pretty much people were backpacking it and kind of, setting fires, camping out, and then trekking along. This is definitely a very brutal and very long trek. You're passing through multiple countries. Pretty much going from the tip of Europe, I guess is where they technically start this at, all the way pretty much into China. This Hippie Trail Silk Road pretty much comes from an explorer from China, I forget his freaking name. But on his travels, he basically noticed how coveted Chinese, primarily silk products, were of the highest price with the markets that he traveled through. So he went back to the emperor and pretty much explained this, and they set up these different trade routes. A lot of it was England, France, back in that day. And I guess maybe that never really changed. But to be able to see the world, the biggest landmass, I believe, and just, conquer yourself, conquer the land. Yeah, there's nothing like it. So some of the destinations, London and Paris were popular starting points for travelers coming from Western Europe. Brussels, Munich, Rome, and Athens, key cities for traveling across Europe and towards the Balkans. In the Middle East, Istanbul, a gateway to Asia and the cultural crossroads. Beirut and Amman, important stops in the Middle East for history, culture, and trade. Aleppo, Tehran, and Baghdad, major cities offering glimpses into ancient civilizations and modern life. Herat and Kabul. Afghanistan was a major draw for travelers due to its stunning landscape, brilliant, vibrant bazaars, and open culture at the time. South Asia. Peshawar and Lahore, which are in Pakistan, key stops before entering India. Delhi, Benares, and Calcutta, cultural, religious, and historic centers of India. Goa, a beach paradise, famous for its relaxed vibe and community of travelers. Kathmandu, Nepal, a spiritual hub known for temples and its mountain vistas. Dhaka, Bangladesh, a less traveled route for exploration and cultural immersion. Mannar, Aduki, and Mannar, South India. Scenic stops in Kerala and Tamil Nadu offering tropical beauty. Tropical beauty. Man, I'm having a rough time reading. I guess the J is hitting me. Good God. Final destinations, Bangkok, Thailand. For many, this marked the trail's endpoint. Thailand's beaches, temples, and cultural attractions made it a natural stopping point. And I can believe that Thailand is very beautiful from the things I've seen. Challenges and the decline. Geopolitical challenges. The Iranian Revolution in 1979 and the Soviet invasion of Afghanistan and conflicts in the Middle East disrupted the trail. And that's pretty much what I wondered. So unfortunately for me, I missed it by 2 years. But that's very interesting that these wars popped off at this, I guess, haven of different strains and cultures. I remember some of the earliest seed company catalogs. I can see it was Nepali weed in there. Strains from Kathmandu. And of course, Afghani. So, yeah, we lost a lot with that. Commercial tourism. The rise of cheap air travel led many to bypass overland journeys. Okay. So I'm guessing in the 60s, 70s, flights were a lot more expensive, and once they became feasible, why would you walk through a freaking mountaintop? Safety concerns. Political instability and security risks discourage travelers over time. Yes, don't want to get kidnapped. Just trying to sightsee. So let's see. Any real highlights in here we want to see? No. Okay. The Hippie Trail in the 1960s and 70s highlighted a period of global curiosity and cultural interconnectedness that continues to influence travel trends today. Wow, I don't even think I've ever seen that word written down. I can't believe I said that correctly. Okay, we can kind of get some other maps here. Not that this had anything to do with it, but right here along that stretch above Africa, you can pretty much see that's the traveling point. My goodness, that is quite a hike. I don't know if that's the Hippie Trail. That's the Hippie Marathon. But I got a better article here. That was just to give you the lowdown nitty gritty, just to take a look at the map. But down the Hippie Trail, the 1970s counterculture journey through the Middle East. How to search for enlightenment, a lot of drugs sent scores of young seekers through Europe and Asia along the Hippie Trail. And this article is from ATI. Addy? Okay, interesting. Well, it's a nice little picture here. That's I'm sure a good portion of the Hindu Kush Mountains. Kush, I believe, in Arabic actually relates to killer or death. Just the conditions are very, very thin air and freezing night temperatures. Most of the purpling of plants comes from Afghani genetics, and the purple pigment is a defense to protect the plant from cold. I'm guessing it helps hold in heat as well as avoid a frost burn. But okay, 5 hikers rest on the Hippie Trail in Afghanistan in 1977. And I was going to say it actually looked old. I didn't want to speak too soon because it could have been some retro stuff from the early 2000s, but the sight of brightly painted vans and psychedelic designs and peace signs plastered all over the exteriors became an increasingly common occurrence throughout the United States in the late 1960s and 70s, as more and more people were embracing the freewheeling, sometimes nomadic lifestyles of the counterculture and traveling wherever the wind or drugs led them. Sounded good so far, I must admit. But when traveling within the United States in a van wasn't enough, the hippies set their gaze on some more exotic locales in Europe and Asia. Untold number of seekers traveled more or less through the same route from northwestern Europe down through Central Asia into the Far East. They called it the Hippie Trail. Now, what was the Hippie Trail? Flexing on them. That's cool. That is a nice little picture there. And you get to see the topography. Kind of explains being wide open why you would want to travel this and just see the sights. Sure, time goes away. You're just in the moment. Rejuvenating. Seems very peaceful even through that picture. The Hippie Trail never firmly set one way. Could begin in a number of major Western European cities and then head southeast towards Istanbul in most cases. For there, routes varied, but it could generally run through Afghanistan, Pakistan, India, and Nepal, with some going as far as Thailand, which they said earlier was pretty much the end point. So you begin in like London or Paris, France, and London, England, or Paris, France, and then ended in Thailand. I guess that's like the bar crawl, the drug crawl. But of course, it started from those beaten paths, started from the, I guess, original Silk Road tradesmen. Selling silks, gunpowders, and other different herbs, different plant types. Just to name a few, I'm sure anything that was of high value, jade, things like that. Lured by the vague promise of enlightenment and adventure in foreign land, whose cultures were sometimes celebrated by hippie icons like the Beatles, as well as the promise of cheap and readily available drugs, these young Westerners tourists flocked by the dozens to try and find some sort of higher understanding or at least a good time along the trail. And with I guess the world not being as technologically advanced as it is now, you would really need something like that. We're in a day and age where we get to hear a different lot of voices that can relate to us, but I'm sure back then it was very few places to turn to if you didn't want to just be part of the establishment. You know, in turn, locals in the countries along the trail eagerly seized up upon the opportunity to make some money off these intrepids, as hippie trail adventurers were often known, and quickly set up tour bus companies and even offered the services of gurus to help accommodate the young foreigners suddenly flocking to these areas. If you build it, they will come. If they come, we'll find a way to get you, exploit you. Damn, that looks scary, happy and scary. I guess they heard the price. Soon there were even books on the subject. As the foreword to the 1973 book Head East reads, we've put together what we hoped is a good primer to help guide you towards some new experiences you might like to try. And besides offering some standard info on expenses and visas, the book warns the readers about white devil syndrome, something similar to what a modern reader might call white privilege. And also includes section labeled dope and munchies for each country listed. Oh man, that's nice. That's like weed maps for real. Drug maps back in the day in the form of book. The internet of its time. Elsewhere, Head East succinctly describes the idea that led to the loose creation of the hippie trail in the first place. People of the East, for the most part, have a much better perspective on life, time, people, drugs, and living in general than do those of them who come from the West. Okay. The legacy of the hippie trail. So another, you can't escape that mountainous terrain. But it's beautiful, wide open. Strawberry fields, I guess. Head East wasn't only a book to come out in the hippie trail experience. In fact, the origins of the well-known Lonely Planet Travels Guide also lies with the hippie trail. Also lie with it. The book series founder, Tony and Maureen Wheeler, took the trail from London to Melbourne in the early 1970s and wrote what would be the first book in the series, 1973's Across Asia on the Cheap, based on their experience. Hey, shoot, I guess you'd make a YouTube video about it now. IRL. The book sold well, more volumes were published, and a new era of travel guidebooks were born. Some even suggest that the modern notion of cheap travel was, in part, born out of the hippie trail. Yeah, I guess, everybody's cashing in on it. If there's a need, what necessity is the mother of invention. So they were capitalizing on it in the West, and people were writing about their experiences in the East. Or do I have that wrong? Oh, people were capitalizing on it in the East and writing about it in the West. Yeah, my bad. I spurred my sleep. Today's Lonely Planet guides may be a bit less hippie friendly than the original, which advised travelers on where to score pot and how to recoup some travel expenses by donating blood. What's more, the original guide certainly dates itself when it notes things such as you can get stoned just taking a deep breath in the streets in Afghanistan, a country that was an essential part of the hippie trail, but is now listed by the Department of State as a level 4 do not travel destination. Dang. How the tables have turned, darkness. Oh man, and that's beautiful. What a beautiful picture, that landscape. The waterways. Now, This was something that, going from ancient times, what the people realized, the original travelers of the Silk Road, that you're going to need water to travel. So they made waterways from the tops of the mountains to trickle down and be able to, I guess, the camels or goats or donkey, whatever the heck you're strapping on your jade with back in the day, will be able to drink, and you'll be able to drink as well to survive this one. It's got to be like 200 miles, 300 miles, depending on where you're going. So, yeah, without this is actually a picture of it. I think this is pretty neat. I heard of it, but I'm like, oh, this is what they must have been talking about from what I was listening to. These waterways along the way that pop out, so you will be able to travel and make it. Because if you are strapped down with a bunch of material, water is something that is very heavy and hard to carry. But you're definitely going to need. You're not going to make it without it. So this was a great ancient invention. I guess it would be like what, an aqueduct or whatever, in rougher terms. But they basically made little different waterways and tunnels to take the mountain water with the snow and be able to feed this. So nice picture of it. Because if you're broke, how do you survive? Well, that was how. Indeed, it was a multifaceted political turmoil in countries along the Hippie Trail that started in the late 1970s that quickly caused fewer and fewer people to make the trip. The unrest in these countries, including Iran and Afghanistan, combined with the decline of the enthusiasm for the counterculture in the West, all but closed the Hippie Trail for good. Hmm. So, interesting way that how they put it, because it was a little more upbeat in the first article we read. I think the way they ended it, yep, it all but closed it for good. In this one, so I also do have a YouTube video that we can watch that will, I guess, give us a third perspective on what the hippie trail was actually like. Oh man, that's not what I meant to play. Sorry, I was watching martial arts. This is this stuff. It's the wrong video. Okay, we're gonna go back to this because I think this is actually where the video is. Sorry about that. What an excellent podcast we're having. Here we go. Full screen. And oh no. Can't trust YouTube, I see. I'll clip that out. Now, hold on here. Maybe this is just me. Maybe this is just me here. But I feel that this is just like the article we just watched. I mean, that I just read. This a video version of it. Yeah, this definitely seems like just a video version of what we read, almost like word for word. And they didn't mention Thailand in that either. And I'm yet to hear anybody mention that this Silk Road was the places and the towns were originally started from trade routes between China and I guess the rest of the world. Their hemp fibers, their silks, their just their technology, pretty much their paper. We'll see. Let's give them a chance. Let them cook. Wow, that is my first time hearing about any of that. Me being an American, I know our version of it. You know, they talked about the Vietnam War part, but I didn't have any idea that it was unrest going on in the rest of the world about, I guess, Vietnam. So that's interesting to me. Okay, is that what did it? Because I do know just from my what being born after 1977 that yeah, a lot of the things that I would see, I guess the movies would be, 10 years older than when I was, but I'd see a lot of that hippie stuff, Cheech and Chong. They'd be on meditating and Om and yeah, crossing their legs like this. So okay, it was I kind of get that that was going on from those type of movies, seeing people meditating, and it was like common or knowing of the hippies, just that far out. I didn't understand that it was supposed to be that they were on drugs. I just thought that they were all just really dumb because they didn't have much to say, or was always portrayed as, I guess, having these catchphrases, but nothing really more input, anything deep to say. But now I'm realizing they was on drugs was what they were really trying to portray. But okay, so it's it's the Beatles that did it. Like I understand. Like I said, I don't think there was many avenues for something different but the establishment back then. So to see this probably shook the world. Really, wow, 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 wow. To me, it's just yeah. I saw these pictures. I'm not really that into the Beatles. I guess if it's between the Rolling Stones and the Beatles, I know more Rolling Stones songs and kind of like them more than I do the Beatles. But uh, that's just me. But I can see how this. I know what the Beatles meant to people, so I can really really see that this was huge for the tourism. What I had Freaknik in my day, and after the first couple good ones, and people really it tripled like the third one, and I guess it's something like this after about once it went from the 60s to the 70s, it was really capital. That's where the bus companies come in and all this. The books of how to travel in Asia cheap come in. Interesting, interesting. This is a big moment and a big push in it. Nice to know. There's two things I learned about I didn't know about. It was worth the watch. Wow. Okay. Whoa. Beautiful. More of the waterway. And you can see there's the highway is even built next to it, but this is pretty much how the travelers were able to make it. Like brilliant. This is some ancient, ancient, ancient crap. Hundreds and hundreds of years old, and they're still benefiting off of it. It's very, very interesting to see. This is breathtaking. Wow, wow, wow. No, should I not done that? I didn't know the video was gonna be good. Oh, I didn't know the video was gonna be good. I should have downloaded it. Okay. Wow. That's beautiful. Woo. Mm, beautiful. Chicken Street. Oh no, that was beautiful. And when they were showing Afghanistan, I wanted to stop it earlier, but I was so mesmerized. It was hard. We could see the snow on the top of the mountain, so that was the stuff that was melting down to make the fresh water that we've seen with the picture of an article, and they were driving down earlier in the video. Woo, beautiful. Come on, man. Look at them titties. Wow. This I'm this architecture, the landscape, the mountains, the greenery. I totally see the blue mosque. Like I didn't even know that was possible. I see why. I see why these people. I can only imagine what it would be like to see this because this is my first time seeing a lot of this. The blue mosque. I didn't even think anything like that was possible. Even somebody would want that, but to see that is breathtaking. To see all of this ancient architecture that has survived this long is worth the trek. I mean, and if you're got the time and you're willing to do it cheap, I mean, my goodness, you you could see so many sites. I guess especially if you go all the way from London or Paris to Thailand, you go to the end of it. You could definitely, yeah, they've written books about it. So I was going to say you could definitely write a book about that. But they said it was popularized in an article. These travel guides, how to travel Asia on the cheap, and I mean, you would definitely want to help people to be able to see these once in a lifetime amazing, I guess, non-Western architecture, culture, people, different languages, different foods, the pudding shop. I mean, wow, 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 wow. That's interesting. So this gave us a little more detail. I am happy that we watched it. I'm mad I didn't download it. This is very nice. Ooh, that water. Mm. Mm. That's one of the beaches they were talking about. Wow. Now, in the middle of all that jungle, I'm just imagining being further back from there, being through all that. There's no way I would think, hey, I walked through this and there's going to be this gorgeous water, this oasis, this beautiful beach. What? Man, I'm trying to imagine traveling on this and seeing these things. Like, I didn't even know these were possibilities. This is great. This is good to know. It's good to see. Reading it was one thing, but seeing it's another. Wow, awesome. What? Oh yeah. And you can see more snow on the mountains now. He mentioned the charas, which is basically like pretty much a wooden tube, and you use it like a pipe. The slender kind of points up, but that's their main form of smoking in these areas, at least from what I've seen. My little cheap knowledge, my American knowledge. But this is a poster. This is ooh, walking down this and just seeing it. You get to take it in for as long as you have to walk it. I know it's just a scene here, but this must be, like quarter mile at least, half mile of walking before you get around this little curve here. And I, how do you describe this? You've run out of film taking as many pictures as you need to take for the sites that you've seen. Freak Street. Wow. Burmese. Uh, and hash has got to be. Okay, yeah. Oh no. I was so into it. No, I was almost there. Don't do it. I hate the holding the microphone thing. Yeah, I was thinking that. Oh, that's authentic. Yeah, I was thinking that. I was like, hold on, the Mister Machine is one. Exactly. And boy, that's authentic. The yin and the yang, the peace. Yeah, all these blends of cultures. The what's the joint? The Merry Pranksters. Whoa. Yes. Okay. Wow. Mm. Whoa. Okay. They brought it home. That's interesting. I was like, this dude looks familiar, but I know it kind of also looks of at the time, but they just kept going. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. That's pretty neat that you can, I guess, go travel through on the cheap, and hopefully this became lucrative. You came out with money out of it to help buffer your permanency, I guess, in Australia. But that was nice. They saw a need and they filled it in. That's excellent, and I can totally believe that it was for the wealthy because most people traveling would be the wealthy, and so it would be more plain, less authentic. Like they said, I'm not sleeping outside, and these people are pretty much willing to do whatever it takes just to give me one more sight, give me one more memory. Okay. Mm-mm. Whoa. Okay. Nice. Okay. I was going to say before I got distracted by the psychedelic grooving is that this was another thing that I remember seeing from older movies of the time. And that was very interesting to see. I didn't even when I saw Lonely Planet reading the article, I didn't even associate the two. So it is very nice to be able to have the visual to go along with everything that we read. And yeah, a lot of the 70s movies I would see, 60s movies. I guess even Blow was dealing with that, like heroin, opium. Okay, that's where these drugs were popping up at. They're not kidding, and this is why. And so it's nice to kind of get that connect or a little glimpse into why certain drugs, I guess, were popular in different eras when I watch movies. And the 60s and 70s, I think, intrigued me the most. Okay. Hmm. Mm. Dang. Mm. Okay. And, oh, that mountain. So there we go again, all the water that trickled down from there basically irrigates. This is how you get all that lush green. Beautiful, breathtaking, awesome. Gee. Mm-hmm. Good point. We get the gist of it. That the times kind of just didn't aren't suited for it anymore. That's unfortunate. That's cool. That was cool. Way to go down memory lane. There we go. Just want to set the movie a little bit better. Then we had some tunes in the background. Of course, we're not going to know the whole true story. And yeah, the article started to go back and the video did start to go back and sound like the article again towards the end. The middle seemed to vary quite a bit, but it brought it home to, oh, that's just like the article was saying. I think they even used multifaceted, verbatim. But that was definitely nice to see all of the topography and mountain ranges, how it evolved over the height of it, I guess from the beginning all the way to the end. So what do you want to get, like the early 60s, say, to, they said 1979, pretty much when the conflict started and different regimes came in and weren't friendly to the drug using hippies. But it definitely left an impact on me. That was one thing. And then, The Serpent, the Netflix. For those of you who have it, I think I'm going to check it out. That might give us some more insight into the social climate of the time. Give us another window into that. Perhaps if it's done well, I hope. But we are going to go into our strain of the week. This should be pretty decent. I'm going to go ahead and set it up, but as anybody as fascinated with, I guess, the 60s and 70s as I am, I really am fascinated with it. Not having, especially nowadays, a camera everywhere. Technology, people got cameras in their phones, Ring doorbells everywhere. Everything is so monitored. So to be able to, at your own pace, not having a care in the world, I guess not having to be accounted for it every second, just gives me a nice feeling. That seems like true freedom to me, and I guess every decade you lose more and more of it. And yeah, that hurts. So I always like to look back, go back, and see when people were a lot more accepting. The little window when it was acceptable to be as free as you wanted to be, travel wherever you wanted to travel as far as your will and your heart can take you. And now, that ain't gonna happen. Where your papers at? Can't just walk around here willy-nilly. So, if you want to leave your thoughts and comments, I would very much appreciate it. If you have any stories or anything, I would love to hear them as well. I really don't have anyone who was into anything like that. My family's background is pretty straight and narrow, unfortunately. So, only thing I really can do is read about it and, kind of research it. But it is nice to know there was a time when it was very free. And now we're going to go on to the strain of the week. And I'm probably going to have to do a little bit of readings too. Oh man, interesting. I'm going to have to format this. I love when your streaming software is ready to go just like you are. I thought we went through this before and everything was already pre-formatted, and it's not, so I have to resize this. Just give me one moment. Well, okay, that wasn't so bad, so we're coming upon it. I'm going to make it just a tad smaller. There we go. So let me start it from the tippy tops. Our strain of the week. Oh, let me go back. Our strain of the week is Sitting Bull. Take from the top, Sam. Now we'll go for this. So, my favorite source, All Bud. Sitting Bull is a rare, evenly balanced hybrid, 50-50 indica sativa, created by crossing the infamous Glass Slipper with Stardog strains. I don't know anything about Glass Slipper. With this bud, the name says it all. You won't be able to do much of anything after you take just a few hits. Interesting. So very interesting that they named it Sitting Bull. So it says the effects of the 19 and 23% average THC levels. Sitting Bull is said to be perfect for treating those suffering from chronic pain, muscle spasms, chronic stress, depression, mood swings, migraines, or headaches. This bud has a sweet and sour pineapple citrus flavor with a high herbal exhale. Now, I've had some of this before. I was actually getting more orange than anything. Like, realistically, I wasn't getting too much, they're saying like a sour pineapple. But it was definitely a very intricate taste. Sometimes sweet in the aftertaste, sometimes orange in the aftertaste, sometimes very earthy in the aftertaste. I definitely had a video on it, and I actually probably should have played that, but I didn't want to self-promote too tough. Shameless plug, no. I'll just go from the top. Sitting Bull has buds that are rounded, dense olive green nugs with bright orange hairs with a coating of frosty amber crystal trichomes. Now, I know this is a short, squat plant. It doesn't get up over 4 feet tall. And it's a medium yielding plant, apparently, somewhere around 10 ounces, but this stuff will lay you out. 10 ounces per square meter. And that's the bright orange buds and amber trichomes. Sitting Bull. There we go. That's what it looks like when it was grown. Oh, this must be on loop. So there we go. Sitting Bull, a strain of the week. I enjoyed learning about the Hippie Trail somewhat. Some stuff I knew. I did learn quite a bit from the video. It kind of showed me that words really can't describe what that must have been like from seeing the video. Just the visuals. A lot of that stuff was my first time seeing it. I've never seen the landscapes of any of Asia like that. Everything I've seen has been depleted and dilapidated like Afghanistan. And that was rich, beautiful, thriving, and was beautiful to see. I enjoyed that Hippie Trail little lesson blast. And definitely, from what I had of Sitting Bull, I would definitely recommend you trying it if you can get your hands on some. Growing it yet to be determined, but definitely smoking it. Yes. This has been episode 5 of the Cannabis Analysis. You all enjoy yourself, fellow Cannabisians, because I know I did.
Welcome to the Cannabis Analysis, the podcast that covers all things cannabis. We're going to talk, debate, examine, and get great. We are now live on YouTube, Rumble, and Kick. Don't forget to join our locals community. The link tree will be in the description box.